We are live. Thank you for joining us for a special live presentation from the Clydesdale Media Company. I am here with Meredith Swindle. But before we get started, I need to thank my sponsors. So huge shout out to RX Smart Gear. You can use the code Clydesdale15 to get 15% off anything in the store at rxsmartgear.com. Mobility Movement, mobilitymvmnt.com. Use the code Clydesdale20, get 20% off your first 6-month subscription. And finally, C4 Energy. You can use the code Clydesdale and get 20% off everything in the store. If they are running a promotion, you get 5% on top of the promotion they're running at c4energy.com. Got that out of the way. Now we can welcome Meredith Swindle. Hey, Meredith, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I told you before we went live, I am super stoked for this one because I am a big fan of the College World Series in softball. And you were quite the athlete in college. I was looking at your numbers. First and foremost, you went to Stetson University.
Yep, I did.
And you were just inducted into their Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy and awesome experience. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, so how much did that mean to you? And did you get to have your family with you? And
yeah, it was so meaningful because, you know, when you're there and you're playing, it's just all about winning, and it's pressure, and all you're thinking about is the next game and the next thing. And then we wrapped all up and I graduated and I was gone. So I never got to really like enjoy the journey that we took because it was just so much stress and pressure, I guess. So it was like, it almost felt like a victory lap with the people that were there with me through all of it and know me the best. And I got to take my husband, who had never been to Stetson before, and he got to meet my coaches. My parents got to come with me, which, of course, they were there with me from day one. They knew how much I love softball. So it was just a super, super special weekend.
So you were a pitcher.
Mm-hmm. I was.
And you were All-American in your senior year, the first All-American in Stetson history?
Yeah. I know. I think it's the only one we've ever had, which is kind of mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, that's something you'll always have too, like that you were the first.
Yeah. Yeah, which, you know, there are a lot of really great athletes at Stetson. Even when I was there, you know, our basketball team dominated, our women's basketball team dominated. So we have a lot of baseball players in the MLB. So to be the only All-American, it's just like shocking. I don't know. It's hard for me to get my mind around.
Yeah. So you, in your senior year, you were the only player with at least 25 wins as a pitcher and 15 home runs as a hitter.
Mm-hmm.
You actually ended up with 27 wins that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's quite the accomplishment. So not only, because usually when you're a pitcher, your hitting suffers.
Right.
Because I was a pitcher in baseball, so I know how my hitting actually dropped off as I started pitching more. Unless you're Shohei Ohtani, then you can't really do both.
Right.
But you did.
It's one of those things where you can't, the more you focus on one thing, you know, you don't have time to work on hitting and pitching all the time. So it's like you just run out of time to be good at both things. And I think that's kind of where it like prepared me for CrossFit, because it's a similar situation, right? Like you can't neglect anything or then it becomes a really big weakness. So I was always a really good hitter from the time I started, but my pitching was like subpar. And when I got to Stetson, we didn't have anybody who could pitch well enough for us to win. And I do not like to lose. So I was like, well, I guess it's going to be up to me, and I'm going to have to figure this out if we want to win. So I just dove all into pitching and doing everything I could to get better at pitching so that we could win, honestly.
Yes. So you actually didn't pitch your freshman and sophomore year. You didn't really pitch until your junior year. You were primarily a hitter.
Yeah, I pitched. So my freshman year, I pitched a lot at the end of the season. Well, I say a lot. I would pitch like the first game of our series because the other two pitchers were starting to kind of like not live up to their potential, I guess, because I was the youngest pitcher. We had two sophomore pitchers ahead of me. And then at the end of my freshman year, they ended up both getting kicked off the team for just personal things. And then my sophomore year, a freshman came in that was really good, and she and I split time. And so we were like 50-50. But I always hit through those times when I wasn't pitching. And then my junior year was when I was like, okay, I'm getting my act together and we're going to win this thing. So just time to develop, you know?
Yeah. So when you were pitching in your junior and senior year, were you hitting on days you pitched?
Yes. So I hit when I pitched, and then I would DH when I wasn't pitching. I tried to play first base, and I took a ground ball off the mouth, and my coach was like, yep, we're not going to let you do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't realize playing the corners in softball is almost like a death wish.
Yes, it's dangerous. And even more so now, like the bats that they have out there now is insane to me. Like these girls are check swinging and hitting home runs. So I don't know. It would be really hard for me to not put on a face mask and go out there and play these days.
Yeah. Because I pitched and I played first and third in competitive softball.
Oh, cool.
And I've taken balls like off my leg that landed out near the outfield fence.
I know.
Like, it is insane.
When I was in high school, I took a ground ball off the temple at second base, and it went over the foul line. I remember I just saw stars. I didn't know what had happened.
and they say CrossFit's dangerous.
I know, right? At least CrossFit's predictable. You can't predict a rock in the dirt to make the ball flop and hit you in the head, you know?
Right. Exactly. So I saw a podcast that you had done, maybe an ad podcast kind of thing, but you talked about how you wanted to get stronger and you thought CrossFit would help you in softball. So that's kind of how you discovered CrossFit. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, absolutely. So it started when I was in high school. We had a trainer. He wasn't like a strength and conditioning coach or anything, but he was working at a PT clinic and watched the Nasty Girls video and fell in love with CrossFit. And so he started kind of introducing it to us as athletes, you know, the ones that were really trying to pursue playing at the next level. So I would go before school, my junior and senior of high school. But of course, we had to be out of the weight room before the boys came in. So I'd get there at 6 a.m. And one day a week, I would do CrossFit. And then the other day a week, I would do powerlifting. And between the first year that I did that, I hit three home runs the first year. And then after doing that all winter, I hit 25 the next year. So I was like, okay, I'm hooked. There's something to this whole like CrossFit and powerlifting, especially how it translates into softball. So then I started doing that. But once I got to college, I started kind of doing their program. But we didn't have a strength and conditioning coach at Stetson at first. So it was kind of like I was just on my own. So I was like, I got to figure out something. And that's when I like got into a CrossFit gym during the summer when I'd come home. And that I think is why my pitching progressed so much each year, because every summer I'd go home and I'd do CrossFit the whole summer. But then, of course, I'd get to school and I wouldn't be able to do CrossFit because at that time, DeLand, Florida didn't have a CrossFit gym. And I had to follow the programming that we were doing as a softball team. But that was one of the things my coach was laughing about at my Hall of Fame ceremony is I would leave our strength and conditioning session and go do a CrossFit workout. And I thought nobody knew this. I was trying to be quiet about it, but of course they knew, but they didn't care because, you know, I was getting better. And then my junior year, we had a strength and conditioning coach come in. His name's Brad Loki, and he introduced Olympic weightlifting to our team. And no joke, my junior year, our team doubled the home run record. And in my senior year, we tripled it just by adding in back squat, you know, hang power cleans, deadlift, all that kind of stuff. It was insane. And so that's when I was like, just watching that progress throughout my whole career, I was like, this CrossFit stuff is amazing and it's addicting.
Yeah, and it makes sense because with Olympic lifting, it's all about the explosion up through your legs, right?
Exactly.
And when you're a pitcher or a batter, you're driving off either your back leg, actually if in both pitching and hitting, So you saw that immediately, and the numbers show it and prove it.
Exactly. And not to mention the injury prevention. My junior year, I had to pitch a lot, and I ended up tearing my pec on my pitching arm, but I just pitched through it, and I was really disappointed with the way our season ended that year. Pitching on a bum arm was not fun, so I like devoted the whole next summer and fall to just getting my body as healthy as possible. And I know CrossFit gets a bad rap for, hurting athletes, but in my experience, it was the opposite. It made my body able to withstand the amount of innings I threw my senior year, which was even more than I'd thrown my junior year.
Did you see a velocity difference in your pitching?
Oh, yeah. But I was more of a spin pitcher. So I would.
Oh, I hated pitchers like you.
I like to outsmart you and I like to make you look silly. But I did. So, I was throwing maybe low 60s when I got to college. By the time I finished, I was throwing mid to upper 60s, which that gap, if you're not familiar with softball, is a lot. And it was just steady. It was gradual as I got stronger and more explosive. But I would only throw my fastball 2 or 3 times a game. But it was just enough speed to stay in the batter back up and get them off of my spin pitches and then throw another spin pitch to get them out.
That's awesome. So when you were doing CrossFit and your softball career was over, when did you see the opportunity to be able to compete in it?
Yeah, that is what I'm really thankful for my older siblings. So I've got 2 older brothers. And my oldest brother opened a CrossFit gym. I think it was my junior year of college. And then, so I finished playing college. I played a year of professional softball in Italy. And while I was gone, they were finishing up, my oldest brother was finishing up his individual career of competing and starting to focus more on having a CrossFit gym. And so he was like, why don't we just try doing a team? So I literally finished up competitive softball in the fall, and then in January we decided to try to do team. That was 2017. So we made it our first year, which is mind-blowing to me now because we were not in very good shape as a group, but we made it and it was super fun. And so then the next year was when they cut it to 4. And that year we were I think we ended up 2 spots from making it to the games at our regional that year, and I had a blast. I loved it. But as a pitcher, the pitcher in me was I want it to be all on me. And so that's when I decided to, kind of stop doing team and pursue individual and see how far I can make it.
Yeah. So in 2018, you finished 7th at the Southwest Regional.
Yeah.
And then in 19, that's when you started doing some individual stuff on a bigger stage.
Yes.
You actually competed at the Italian Throwdown.
Yes.
So you said you played in Italy. Was that kind of cool going back to Italy as a CrossFitter?
Yeah. And that's exactly why I did it, was because I had friends there. I got to go see them all. I got to, go back and experience Italy from the CrossFit side, where I'd experienced it from the softball side. And if you're familiar with Italians at all, they're just incredibly hospitable. And so just me going back there and seeing them, it was a special time in my heart because they're so, I don't know, precious,
Yeah. And you finished 6th, so you did really well at the Italian Throwdown. Did that give you confidence that you could do something in this sport?
Yeah, it really did. I was super excited about the way that it turned out. It was still very eye-opening from the individual standpoint, because when you're doing team, you can kind of look around and see where everybody else is at and take a breath. But when you're individual, it's every second counts. And I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but I remember watching a girl turn around. She kicked down out of her handstand and turned around as she was stepping down and then back up. By the time I had even come down, took a step, turned around, gone back. So it was just learning all of those little things was really eye-opening for me at the Italian Showdown.
And last year you competed at the MAC.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So you've been to Knoxville before.
I have.
So now you're going to be competing in the Syndicate Crown this year,
Right.
back in Knoxville, but a new arena.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So are you excited about going back to Knoxville?
I'm pumped. I'm so excited. The MAC last year, it was just so well run. The way that they treated us as athletes, it was like royalty, you know? So to be able to experience that again, that's what makes CrossFit really fun for me. It's just the opportunity to compete, and the way that they do it is just top notch. So I'm super excited to get back to Knoxville. And plus the town's really cool, you know?
Yeah. And what's really cool is, if people don't know, the MAC has been around for a very long time. It was actually a community event that has grown into a CrossFit semifinal. And I'm so stoked they got 2 this year,
Right.
because it's run by 12 Labors CrossFit. They have been doing this for 12 years or something like that. So it is so well run. And when you go there, it's just a great experience.
It really is. I remember watching 12 Labors on the team side when we were on a team. You know, that name has been around in the CrossFit community a while.
Yeah. And the directors are great people, and they remember everybody's name. It is the most insane thing I've ever seen.
It is. It really is. You know, last year I didn't get the placement I wanted. I was like in the first heat all weekend long, yet they were knowing who I was and talking to me and being friendly. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So this year you went to Wadapalooza.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
this year was my first year ever at Wadapalooza, and I'll never miss another one.
I know. It's so cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
I went in, I think it was 2019 or maybe it was 2020 before everything happened, but I competed as RX. And so I told myself, I was like, I'm not coming back here until I make it in the elite division. And so being in the elite division this year was like such a cool experience. And the way it's a similar environment, like the way they treat the athletes is so cool. And you know, the atmosphere is like unreal, unmatched. You're out there on the floor under the Miami lights at night with techno music blaring in your ears. You know, it's like you just don't get much better than that.
Yeah. And it was a stacked field too. So it's a
Yeah,
great place to just test some things out.
right.
So did that give you any confidence, or did you learn anything in that experience to
Yeah.
take you to the Syndicate Crown?
So the kind of bummer about Wadapalooza was I got COVID the week before I left.
Ugh.
So I got on the plane the day that I was finished with quarantine. And so I just knew it was going to be kind of like a survival style weekend. The first 2 workouts of the weekend destroyed me. And I remember being sore on Monday getting on the plane from the workout we done Thursday, which is not very normal because, you know, I'm used to training at a much higher volume than those workouts were. So it was just, to me, it was like that was disappointing, but I was trying to make the best of my experience because, you know, how often do you get to do those types of things? I didn't know when I would get that opportunity again. And to be around those girls and just see the caliber of athletes that they are was, you know, an experience that can't be matched. So I just wanted to go in with it. And I did feel better as the weekend progressed, but it was, that first day was kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad. But now we have the Syndicate Crown. So what are your goals going into this weekend?
Yeah, I want to qualify. I feel like it's when it comes down to, I got one hole left to fill. I've been working really hard. And the biggest thing is this past year, I made some pretty big changes. I switched to Proven back in June and been trusting the process with them this entire year. So with a year of being with them under my belt, we got to go do a training camp a couple weeks ago, and learned a lot, took away a lot from them. It's like, you know, when you can be around the best as much as possible, then you can kind of see what it takes to be the best, if that makes sense. So I just feel like my fitness is there. If we can get some good workouts and give it all I got, we'll see what happens.
Well, the workouts were released today.
Yeah, I saw them this morning.
You,
I'm pretty excited about
you're pretty
it.
excited about it?
Yeah,
Awesome.
they look awesome. And that's one thing that I appreciated about the MAC last year too, was it seems like they know how to program, which I think, in my opinion, is a hard thing to do, to be able to test completely the athlete. So I saw them this morning, and I'm super excited to get to the gym and just start testing them out.
Are you willing to say which one it looks like your favorite?
I'll say they all look like my favorite, right? But I
Yeah.
always love a max lift. The legless rope climbs look fun. And then that last one, anything heavy, I am always going to like. So moving a heavy barbell, all that kind of stuff, the heavy sandbag, that just looks fun.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad. I didn't know you were with Proven. My research didn't get, I think I got stuck on the softball stuff. But I actually have some really good friends at Proven. So that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. They did a training camp for us back in the middle of April. And I'm not like super vocal about being with Proven or anything, because I want my work to show for itself. But it was a really cool experience getting to meet all them and train with them, and, talk with Tia and Brooke and all that kind of stuff. And they're super nice,
Yeah.
The reason I chose Proven is my husband, he's a big Rich Froning fan. He'll be watching Rich Froning videos all the time. And one time I was watching a video with him, and Shane and Tia are in the back they're somewhere doing a handstand obstacle workout. And there's a girl just struggling. You can see her in the back of the video, and she can't get over the obstacle. And Shane and Tia are off to the side, and Shane stops what he's doing with Tia and walks over to help this girl. And so I was like, I mean, what else could you want in a leader? Somebody that's willing to stop what he's doing and help somebody. So it's pretty cool.
Well, Saxon is from Ohio, where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I've been really good friends with him for a long time. And then I've
Mm-hmm.
gotten to know Nick Johnston pretty well.
Yeah.
Over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And those are two of my favorite people in the sport. So
Absolutely. Saxon's just such a nice guy,
he is.
And he brought his twins up there the last day, precious little babies.
So speaking of family, the last thing I have so your husband, you mentioned him, and he watches Rich Froning videos. So does he do CrossFit?
He does do CrossFit. So he doesn't have time to compete like I did, although I know he would. He's got a baseball background. So we connected on that when we first met, but he wasn't working out, and I'd kind of dragged him in the gym. And then after the first workout, he was hooked. They talk about the endorphins that the workout releases. And I just remember he's kind of a shyer guy, but once after that workout, he was nonstop talking. And I was like, yes, I got him.
And how did you guys meet?
We met through some mutual friends out at a public scene. I'll just put it like that. He approached me, and we kind of started talking. And when I kind of got to know him a little bit more, because normally I don't like to, just hand my number out to a stranger.
Yeah.
But
And
for
so
some reason, he caught my interest.
that's awesome. And my co-host Kat actually just chimed in that great story about why you chose Proven.
Oh, thanks. It's the truth.
So this has been awesome. You're so much fun to talk to.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Kat and I, who just chimed in, we'll be at Syndicate Crown.
Awesome.
So we'll look forward to seeing you there, and we'll catch up and maybe add some more interviews to this.
Good deal. Sounds good. I look forward to meeting you guys in person.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.